Hello there, everybody. Ben here with another episode of Deck Check. This week I will be flying solo as TJ is resting up and getting some well-deserved break time. So I will be taking the reins on this week's episode. So hopefully you guys do enjoy it. For those of you who are watching this on Wednesday, thank you for being a member to our channel. We truly do appreciate every one of you. You know, your support really allows us to do what we do here on the channel. So we can't thank you enough. For those of you who are watching this video go live on Friday, do consider becoming a member. You do get some perks such as early access to some of these videos like Deck Check, our weekly deck profiles as well, and some other neat things that we are slowly incorporating as the months go by. But if you could like and subscribe to the channel, we would also truly appreciate it. But yeah, enough of me chit-chatting. Let us kind of hop into the meat and potatoes of the video. I know we have been doing this for a while, but I did want to highlight Digimon card meta for those of you who are kind of new to the site or kind of curious as to what this is. This is really kind of like a perfect place to find topping deck lists. For those of you who are looking at, you know, topping lists from various competitive tournaments ranging from like regular locals to tamer battles / like store champions to even like big scale large events. They have a great comprehensive guide for all the cards, all the topping lists, and you can kind of use this as a great place to kind of see what the meta is shaping out to be, not just in your local area, but you know, across the globe, which is really, really cool. So definitely a great place to check out, and this is where we pull all of our lists from our videos. But the first list of today is going to be Omnimon. They call it Omni Nokia, but this is sort of like the Omni DNA deck that we've seen a lot of. The four lists that I've chosen this week are really going to focus on the recent Porto Regional that took place in Europe this past weekend. Do check out some of our European content creators, Karn EX, Vortex TCG. I know they were both, I believe Karnex was there, but they both were kind of covering the Porto Regional. I know Vortex was playing in it and did pretty well for his part. But this list was piloted by Digimon Emperad. One got top 4, I believe, on the whole day. They did like a top cut after their first set of like regionals like placements, and then a top cut happened, and this ended up getting top 4 on second day. Going to the black base, which is interesting. You know, I think at first there's this huge debate with like red versus black base. We've seen both lists do, or both variants do pretty well. This list obviously running the Sumemons and the EX4 Searcher rookies to help with your consistency. The Sumemon egg synchronizes very well with tamers like Nokia over here, which is sort of the bread and butter of this deck, very akin to Daiken for Imperialdramon, which lets you play out here an Agu or a Gabu and helps to string along your combo plays ever so nicely. The rest of your rookie lineup here is like your BT22, Agu, and Gabu, which are core pieces. They're running a 4-2 split of the War Greymons and the Metal Garurumons, which I think is the right call. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer to this deck, but at the same time, I do feel like that like 4-2 is a pretty common ratio that we've seen a lot of people run. So I do like the 4-2 split. That's personally what I'm running for the list as well. And then we see the top end consisting of the BT22 Omnimon as well as the EX9 Alter S. Both of these cards are really, really strong. The Alter S really enables a lot of the like loop shenanigans that can go on and really pack on a lot of aggression, whereas the BT22 Omnimon is still a really good aggression card, but also helps with pretty decent board control as well. The Alter B is a nice sort of finisher, where if you're able to just kind of go for that last swing, trash 3 security, and go for game, that's always a great option. Your Tamer lineup is here pretty standard for the most part. You know, BT17 Matt and Tai, or Tai and Matt, are just huge gas for the deck. If you have multiple of these fellows out, like a lot of your combo plays become so efficient that I've seen players gain memory by doing their shenanigans. So I think a really, really key card here also gives you that ability to swing when the turn is passed. So almost like a pseudo blitz mechanic, right? Nokia we talked about. Mirai is again good for consistency, being able to cycle through your deck And then at the start of your turn, being able to bottom decker to play out a Nokia is huge value. You're basically getting a 5-cost tamer and a free on play for free, as opposed to a 5-cost. So this is like the best way to get your Nokias out efficiently. Miraculous is just still a really cracked card for the deck. Here's an interesting choice here. The Kuremi Detective Agency. The more I think about it, the more it does sort of make sense, you know? I think here most folks would be running like the EX9 Matte and Tie or Tie and Matte, which again is really nice for the memory gain, but I think in my testing, can feel like sort of like a dead card in hand, because depending on the situation, you may not get its full benefit. It really is there for the memory gain from your on plays and digivolving. But the Detective Agency option card honestly makes sense. You know, you're able to cycle through. You can pick up, you know, your 2 BT22 rookies, so 8, 16 when you include your Wargraves and Metagarurus. Lets you pick up your Omnimons, and also lets you pick up your Nokias and your Mires. So, I mean, in total, right, you have 7, 11, 19, and 27 total targets for this card. Pretty strong, actually, right? You know, that's more than half your deck that you're able to pick up with this card. It's free memory, free cycle. I honestly think people sleep on this. So I really do like this card as a tech choice. And I definitely will be testing with it. But enough about this list. Congratulations to you for your top 4 finish, and well done. Next list is another top 8 placement over at the Porto Regional. This one was Machinedramon. So purple base machine kind of making a comeback here. TJ has done a lot of work with Machine, as well as our local Machine connoisseur Anthony, and kind of trying to figure out a decent build. And I think a lot of folks have sort of settled on something very similar to this. You know, you see your typical potpourri of like sort of options here for your rookies. Basically your Uko package. The Siako is great for cycle and trash setup, along with your Fasco. The Haguru is a nice, like, sneaky choice here if it'll show up as, like, a machine type, and being able to, again, slam it down for 3, cycle something into trash, draw 2 is still not bad for machine overall. EX9 brought with it a lot of really neat pieces for machine, along with the new EX9 Machinedramon, which I think a lot of folks have now just turned to compared to the EX1 machine. Really, really strong card. The idea of this deck, as it always has been, right, is to get some initial chip damage with either your Ukos or your lower end bodies, and then slam down your big machine, make it as sticky as possible to keep on the board, and then once you kind of have an established play, you can go into like your Chaos or Chaos X, do even more damage, and make your boss monster even harder to get rid of until you can go for lethal. And a lot of times with a lot of these inherits, you're trashing security, you're getting multiple checks in. So before you know it, like, they could quickly like OTK you in some instances. So really, really strong deck still. I think still can struggle with machine things, which is like finding your pieces, consistency, sometimes tempo. But I mean, in a post-banless world, if the meta does slow down, I think there is a spot for machine to really make some moves, right? I think a lot of decks just automatically jump up a tier per se. But I think machine could be in a good spot depending on how things shake up with the ban list. So definitely don't sleep on this. This is a very good, solid, I think, like, staple machine list. I think this is a pretty... I don't want to call it standard because there's a lot of tech choices that you can plug in with machine. But I would say a pretty, like, good starting point. Like a good skeleton for folks who are looking to build machine to take a look at. So congratulations to you, Kubo. Next is, once again, another list from the Porto Regional. This was piloted by Jorge. Got top 16 on Top Cut, playing Allforce. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because I think I saw his post, this got first place on, like, the first, like, Swiss round tournament, and then in Top Cut got top 16. So congratulations there. That's an excellent finish. Allforce is a deck that I personally feel like I have yet to crack. This probably is as like pretty similar to what I have going on right now. Your rookie lineup consists of like your BT22 Vmon, which was a great addition to the deck. Being able to give yourself pseudo evade via the inheritable and make your evolution into a Veedramon that much cheaper is really, really nice. And then the BT11 and EX1 Veedramon just round things out. The promo Veedramon is still a huge staple in the deck, along with the BT22 Veedramon, which lets you play out your tamers for free. Free tamer advantage in a deck that relies on its tamers to carry out its game plan is, I think, absolutely huge. And then the new Arrow V for additional like level 4 removal, getting an extra unsuspend with your inheritable, and end of turn being able to get some unsuspension as well is really good for setting up an ace play. Really good for getting some extra memory to extend your turn. So really, really strong level 5 paired with the BT11 Arrow V to help search for your tamers. This build definitely rotates around, again, BT11 All-Force, which I think arguably still is the better All-Force compared to the Ace. But I do see merit in running the Ace for that like bot deck potential compared to the bounce to hand potential. And then really, really heavy on the arena count, again, just to, one, find some consistency with that, and two, I mean, the new BT22 arena, allowing your All-Force to gain jamming for the turn, have an extra tamer just to play out, to synergize very well with BT11 All-Force and BT11 Arena, is still really, really strong. On play, giving something plus 3 KDP also helps to make sure that your All-Force stack lives and stays on the board. So still a really, really good tamer. I see why it's at a 4 of. You do sneak in one of the V-Tamer tie for a cheap 2-cost tamer that also allows you to draw cards. And then you run 4 training and 2 blue scramble. Training is an interesting choice. I think it's nice because you get to pick up your tamers. I do feel like memory for me is a little bit more desirable in this deck. Like, I'm running more boosts as opposed to more trainings just because I feel like you have ways to get into your tamers. It's just a matter of, can you keep turn to do your OTK play? And as memory efficient as All-Force can be with the BT11 Arena, I feel like sometimes you just need like that extra 2 memory to slam down a tamer to get that extra play extension. So I don't know. Like I said, I still haven't necessarily cracked it. Obviously, this list worked for Jorge, and he did extremely well, going 8-1 in Swiss and then top 16 in Top Cut is nothing to shy about. At the end of the day, you know, like, I'm definitely going to keep testing with it, seeing what works. I definitely will be using this as a foundation. So congrats, Jorge, once again. And yeah, I mean, very, very strong showing. And then the last deck that we're going to highlight here was the ultimate winner from the Porto Regional over here. And this is an interesting list. I saved this one for last because I saw this and I was like, this is really, really interesting. It's running sort of this like core for, you would assume, almost like a Jessamon-esque build, except it's really only utilizing the new BT20 line with Huckmon and the Bauhuck. You're not even running any like saviors. You're really running Wargrowl Ace. You're running the Promo Gallant, Medieval Gallants, yada yada. It's really interesting. Because from what I can see here, the basic idea is to just run Red Floodgates, which is Go-To, and the Shamaman, which are both very strong in their own right. Bauhuck is there to be able to have a Bauhuck in the back, raise out, then play out a Gankomon for reduced cost. So when you have the Huckmon out, you reduce the play cost of the Ganku by 4, and then you also reduce it by an additional 2 from the Bauhuck effect. So in essence, sorry for going back and forth here, but you're playing this Gankumon out for 6, right? So when you play Ganku out for 6, what you'll do is on play, you can Digivolve into essentially a GankooX. GankooX, when Digivolving, lets you de-Digivolve to, which is pretty nice. And then if you have Gankumon in its Digivolution cards, which if you're doing the play, you always will, none of your Digimon are affected by your opponent's Digimon's effects. So that synergizes very well with just having a wide board of Digimon. All of them are unaffected, which is really, really nice. And then having sort of this like big, beefy guy just sort of sitting there, threatening like a big immune board, essentially, that if you don't deal with it next turn, just ends up going for game, is really strong. And in the testing that I've done against Jessamon, it's scary because even if you have just a board of like 3 or 4 bodies on the field, that are just immune, right? You can't get rid of them. You just either have to raid into them. But even then, if they have raid, or if you try to raid, if they have the Ganku or GanKooX out on the field, you're threatening, like, for example, Jesmon GX Ace. You're also threatening, I find it curious that they're running the Oryukin Ace. I feel like that probably is only really being played or evoed. But the Just GX Ace is just super, super strong. Deals with a lot of things. The War Growl Ace is also really strong there too. And then obviously Medieval Gallant is really nice when you kind of have a wide board of bodies and you just slam down a Medieval Gallant to get rid of stuff for additional board control and also act as a huge floodgate. Really, really nasty. So it's a deck that, if it sees its line and sees its pieces, basically says, deal with me, and if you don't deal with me, I probably game you next turn. It doesn't care how much memory it passes over, doesn't care how much like resources, quote unquote, it gives your opponent, because the whole board's immune. So I think it's really interesting, particularly in a meta that, you know, has a lot of deletion, has a lot of bounce, has a lot of removal. To have a board that just says no, that doesn't apply to me, and if you know, don't have the answer to my board or can't beat me in time, I win, is honestly not a bad strategy nowadays, you know. So I'm curious to see if this list will catch on and how this list will do moving forward. If people choose to run this list, I think it's really cool. I definitely can see the downsides to it as being like typical just things. Like if you don't see the Gankus, what do, right? Your game plan is kind of stuck. Particularly without like saviors and stuff to hard evo into. But like I said, I'm very interested in this list. It looks pretty neat. I might even try and mess around with it just to see how it goes. But yeah, no, I mean, congrats to you, Imported Block. Great job to be able to get, you know, just first place in both like Swiss, well, not first place in Swiss, but like to top in Swiss, and then to get first place overall at Top Cut. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. So definitely pat yourself on the back, and you know, you did Ganku proud. That's for sure. But yeah, no, that'll wrap it up for the list for this week. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate all the support. As always, we look forward to seeing you on future episodes. As I said earlier, if you're not a member yet, please do consider becoming one. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Check out our socials, which are linked down in the video description below. You know, within the next week, we're going to be getting a ban list, so we're all super pumped for it. We're definitely going to be talking about it when we get the official drop. So, you know, exciting times ahead. Let us know what other decks you want us to highlight down in the comment section down below, and hopefully we catch you on the next video. Bye-bye!